Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to just sit and talk a bit about the state of the physical game market, and it's looking scary out there. In case you weren't aware, there was a big bombshell piece of news that dropped yesterday that should definitely scare collectors of physical games. I don't know how many of you watched the PlayStation Showcase 2023. One of the games that was shown off there was Alan Wake 2, a game that a ton of people are excited for. Me personally, I played the first Alan Wake a few years ago for the first time and absolutely loved it. I'm very much looking forward to the second Alan Wake. But the biggest news was what they didn't tell you in that showcase. Obviously, they're not going to do it. It's more of, just a place to show games. They're not going to talk about every little feature of a game that's coming out. But the big news here was that Alan Wake 2 is not getting a physical release whatsoever. This game is releasing digital only on, multi-platform. It'll be out on PC, it'll be out on Xbox, it'll be out on PlayStation, but it will cost $60 and it will only be available digitally. Now, I did bring up the direct quote from what Remedy posted here because I don't want to misquote them. I'm just going to briefly read it to you guys, and this is what it says. It says, "Why is Alan Wake 2 a digital-only release?" And they said, "There are many reasons for this. For one, a large number have shifted to digital only. You can buy a Sony PlayStation 5 without a disc drive and a Microsoft Series S without as a digital-only console. It is not uncommon to release modern games as digital-only," which is true. You can buy digital versions of these consoles, but I wonder how much of their decision to release this digitally is based on the sales of those consoles. Perhaps they looked at the release of Alan Wake Remastered and actually saw that more people bought it digitally over physically, so maybe their reasoning behind this isn't so much just the existence of digital-only consoles, but maybe their own sales data shows that maybe a majority of people actually are buying these games digitally. They go on to say, secondly, not releasing a disc helps keep the price of the game at $60 and the PC version at $50, which is true because, as you know, a lot of newer release games now are becoming $70 games, and I guess this is their reasoning to save you $10. But I would also argue that I think most people would be okay with paying an extra $10 if it meant that they got to have physical ownership over their game and can have the free reign to trade this game with a friend or sell it. I think majority of people would be completely okay with paying an extra $10 to have the option to buy a physical version. Let me just finish their statement here first before we go off. Finally, we did not want to ship a disc product and have it require a download for the game. We do not think this would make for a great experience either. Well, how about making a complete game before you release it? I hate this new trend with new games coming out, and then day one you get like a 5 GB download that essentially installs half the game in fixes. How about you just give these games a proper development cycle? Don't rush them out. Don't have, Microsoft or Sony. I mean, I shouldn't say don't have them. Unfortunately, some of these companies have no, choice in the matter if they're owned by the company. But how about Sony and Microsoft just step up and release these games without needing huge day one patches? Release a disc version of the game that is competent and playable. And yes, maybe in a year or two they release some bug fixes and patches, and let's just say that, maybe in some kind of dystopian future where people don't have a way to update these games anymore, maybe it gets taken offline and you can't update the game. At least you will have a physical disc that functions and is playable. And then it also says, is there a disc-based version of Alan Wake 2 in the works? It says there are currently no plans to release Alan Wake 2 on disc. I don't know why they had to reiterate that. So this is scary, and I'm going to explain why, because Alan Wake is not just your Joe Blow everyday game that most people will probably end up buying digitally anyway because it's like some sports game or something. Not to say that people buy sports games digitally, but the thing is, Alan Wake is a survival horror game. You guys know, collectors, they love their survival horror. Look at the prices of survival horror games physical on all platforms, on all consoles, especially PlayStation consoles. Hundreds of dollars sometimes. Collectors love survival horror. They love having a shelf. They love collecting a physical collection of horror games. So to take a survival horror game and make it digital only, this is testing the waters. I feel like Alan Wake 2 is such a pivotal point in the future of physical games and determining. Other companies are going to be looking very closely at this from all genres. They're going to look and they're going to pay attention to the sales of Alan Wake 2. Does it perform better than they thought? Does it underperform? Should we release our game digital only and just save the cost of having to press physical versions? Because the thing is, I think most people that would want to buy Alan Wake 2, I would say my own personal speculation here, 75% of them at least would probably want a physical copy of this. Another reason for this is Alan Wake Yes, there may be DLC. I wouldn't say may. There will almost certainly be a DLC for this game coming down the line. But not everybody's in the DLC. A lot of people like me, we buy the game day one, we play it, we have fun with it, we move on to another game. But in the case of a digital-only game, you're not buying that game day one. Let's say the game is like under 10 hours, you know, give or take. Maybe it's an 8 to 12-hour game. You beat it in the weekend, and then what? You can't trade it to a friend. You can't sell it. You're stuck with this game. And because it's a single-player, story-driven survival horror game, you're stuck with it. The scarier part about this is also going to start allowing companies to monopolize the prices of digital games. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo even. If there's going to be no secondary market for Alan Wake 2, that means that this game can sit at $60 for 2 years. Maybe they throw you a bone once in a while for a October sale or something next year, where they discount the game by 10%, 15%, maybe 20%. But you're always going to be paying top of the dollar price for this. You're not going to be able to waltz into a GameStop or buy it on eBay or Amazon and get a physical copy on sale for Black Friday. You are stuck paying maximum price for this. So as long as they see that sales for it are fine, or they want to, you know, keep pushing maximum price sales on these games, they have complete control over what you're going to be spending for these. I think in the future, I mean, this almost feels like a completely different video, but that I could talk about, but I feel like in the future, we're going to have like the revision of PlayStation Home, where in VR or something, if VR takes off, or even if VR doesn't take off, instead of looking at videos of people's game collections or walking into someone's room and seeing their game collections, you're going to walk into a virtual space and they're going to have digital ownership of their games. Like they'll have a virtual game room, and all of their digital games are going to be on these shelves, right? And you're going to be able to like look and trade and buy. Who knows? I feel like I could almost do a whole nother video speculating on the crazy future of digital games. But it's something to think about, and something that I just had experience with today, where I went to pick up a copy of something I'm very excited to play because it's apparently has potential for being the worst game of the year, and I always get excited over terrible games, you know me. Lord of the Rings Gollum. I went to pick this up at a GameStop. I was the only person to come in to get the game. They got in 3 copies for PlayStation 5, and they got in a single copy for the Series X. That's dire. A Lord of the Rings game getting that small of a print run. Yes, the game's supposed to be terrible. They probably anticipate the game isn't going to sell all that great. But man, I think we are closer than we think to more games taking the route of Alan Wake 2, going completely digital, offering up a little condolence message on Twitter, being like, hey, you know, it is what it is. We think this is going to be the best for the game, and that's it. What's the next step? You know, once these bigger companies start releasing their AAA first-party titles, what if the next Halo is digital only? It's only on Game Pass. You can't get a physical. What if, I don't know, the next, say, Ratchet and Clank game is digital only? They just don't really see the sales in physical games anymore. And, you know, a lot of people would love to have a physical copy of Ratchet and Clank, another single-player game that you can probably beat in 10 hours or so. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because my channel is collector focused, right? I'm not just doing gaming news commentary to a bunch of people that maybe have already moved over to the digital storefront. A lot of you are collectors. A lot of you want physical games for the various reasons I listed off. So let me know. What do you plan on doing with Alan Wake 2? Are you picking it up digital only because you have no other option? Are you going to wait out and hold out and hope that they give to the pressure and make some kind of physical version, maybe through a company that handles limited release kind of games like that in a small print run? Let me know. Me personally, I'm going to be getting it because, well, I stream on Twitch, and I always play these new release horror games during October, so it's sort of like my duty. But I've also been training myself over the years to prepare for this moment. I've been buying digital games for a lot, but I buy digital, I buy physical, I kind of intertwine the both of them so that when this time came, I'd be ready for it, where I wouldn't feel like I'm stabbing myself in the heart or something every time I got to buy a $60 digital game. I don't buy a lot of $60 games anymore, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But I would be curious to know what you guys think and what your plans are for Alan Wake 2. Anyway, guys, not to scare all of you physical collectors out there for the current generation of consoles, but I think this is a topic of discussion worth having. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.